Hello, welcome. I am Ariyana Love, the TLB Director of Middle East Rising and the Liberty Beacon. Here with us today is Luca Majno. He is an investigative journalist. Both Luca and I have been studying the escalations of police brutality at Standing Rock and violations against American civil rights. Luca has put together an incredible presentation for us tonight. We have a lot of information to go over, and it's probably going to be about a 2-hour session. So this is going to be more like a discussion. The violence at Standing Rock has escalated to a point where it's really critical, and we're on the precipice of people being killed now. So we want to impress upon the severity of this situation, and we have a lot of information to go over. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Luca. It's a pleasure. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be working with you.
It's a pleasure for me too, and I hope there's many more. We came together, Ariyana and I, simply because we see a trait that we share in common, and that trait lays the groundwork for the rest of what's going on in this world today. Israel's genocide of the Palestinians is exactly the same thing as the United States and its genocide of the original people. It's clear that both countries have the same father, and that father would be Rothschild, the Rothschild dynasty, the Rothschild Zionist dynasty. And we have to make things very clear from the start, because most people, they hear the word Jew and they think, you know, it's all the same. It's not at all. Zionism is a cult. Zionism is a secret society. It has nothing to do with the Jews per se. It's a bunch of crooks and the cabal, which is what we should probably familiarize ourselves with. Most people don't even know that. We have to appreciate the fact that these goons want perpetual war. This has been happening since 1776. For 240 years, we've been at war in this country called America. And only 17 years of peace. That's the absence of war. 17 years of peace since 1776. This is how the elite make their money, through war, fueling both sides of every conflict. Business as usual for them. And by the way, most people don't know what the word America means or what it stands for. In Spanish, it simply means the love of riches. America, the love of riches. And that certainly doesn't define me. So today, there are basically the top 3 out of 60 families that I could find that rule the world. Rockefeller in America, Rothschilds in Europe, and no, the royal family, who most of us think is British, are actually Prussian. And they changed their name to Windsor in 1917, like the castle, for cover, so that nobody would know. And their real name is Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, and they only rank number 20 on this list. Oppenheimer is number 3 in Africa, responsible for looting that nation of everything that it has, you know, diamonds, crude oil, petroleum, natural gas, coffee, tea, grains, livestock, the usual. And for these elite, it's all about money, assets, colonies, control, and power. So what has happened to lead us to this point? I think that's what the show is going to be all about. How can peaceful water protectors in North Dakota be met with such incredible force? As officers of multiple colors, which means different counties and different districts and different states, they're facing them with batons, with mace, concussion grenades, with pepper spray, helmets, rubellets, armored vehicles, LRAD sonar weapons now, and assault rifles. And we have pictures to prove that. This is
LRAD, just to clarify, LRAD sonar weapons. This is a high frequency, a loud frequency that is deafening to the ear. It's like crowd dispersal technology. Is that right?
yes.
LRAD. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make that clear in case people don't know.
The Navy was,
Yeah.
I believe, the one who started that, who put a fine tune to it. There's a long deceptive history present, which the government refuses to address every single time, but prefers to do dead photo ops, which is what I call them, like Obama traveling to Pine Ridge, South Dakota, just staying in his comfort zone is something he needed to look good with his stance on First Nations, and he ends up lying. And if there's one word that I'd like people to remember in the beginning of the show, it's exactly that. It's lies. Obama lied about it all, just like he lied about the pipelines when he spoke of them in 2009. He ends up lying about everything. It's one big lie. And I want to focus on that word for a second because he just got the Nobel Peace Prize for his work, Nobel Peace Prize in Europe. And according to John Pilger, and I'm quoting, the Obama administration has built more nuclear weapons, more nuclear warheads, more nuclear delivery systems, more nuclear factories. Nuclear warhead spending alone rose higher under Obama than any other American president. The cost over 30 years has been more than $1 trillion. Okay, but you have to remember, it's not Obama as a singular agent deciding all of this. He's a puppet, just like all the ones that are chosen underneath him for the Rothschild dynasty. And also something I'd like to mention is that there's a mini nuclear bomb that's planned, or it's probably ready now, but it was planned when I read about this. It's called the Model B61 Model 12. There's nothing like it, apparently. General James Cartwright, a former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said, quote, going smaller makes using the nuclear weapon more thinkable.
It's actually, it's been tested. It's been, there's video footage in Ukraine of mini nukes in Syria since 2013 and also in Yemen. And the reports were that it was Israeli jets that used the that were seen in the area when the mini nukes went off. So yeah, they've been weapons testing them in the field against international law. And there's also reports that there were mini nukes used at the World Trade Center in the basements.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
just throw that in there.
I saw one picture of the bomb with a man kneeling next to it with his arm over it like a whore. You know, like he was so proud of it. You know, this is their world. This is how they operate. This is what they do day in and day out.
The mini nuke, it's a small device. It's hard to find pictures on Google. I think that it's censored out. But it's a small device like this and nuclear. You know, it can fit into a suitcase. It can. It makes a small explosion, but still the mushroom cloud. It's distinguishable. It goes high up into the air, but it's a smaller explosion than, say, a typical nuclear bomb.
Because the picture I saw was longer, and he had his arm over it, so it's, you know.
Okay, there's different ones. There's different sizes. Yeah. Model
12 maybe, but see, this is the thing. We're always guessing. We never know what's going on. Mm. A really good friend of mine told me once that if you're in a relationship and you have to play detective, you may as well forget it. And since 1994, I think, or before, that's all I've been doing is playing detective about the country that I'm living in, about the government that I'm living under, you know. Mm-hmm. It's one thing after another. So right. Again, lies is where this all starts too, because of the treaties that government made with First Nations. This is terribly important because this is the foundation of what we're talking about. Right from the start, there are over 500 nations, 500 treaties that were made with the original people. Broken, every single one of them. And I just want to throw something in. When I talk about the original people, there are so many different words. There's so many different terms. There's original people. There's First Nations, there's Native Americans, or there's plain Indians. So we're going to be using a lot of them, probably all of them, because you can't please everybody, right? So unfortunately, we can't just annul or dispose quietly of all of this with that old saying that, you know, history repeats itself if the lessons aren't learned, because that's not at all the case. The world is definitely not broken. It was built this way. You know, very few of us understand that this was never meant to stop. The lesson to be learned now for the government is how to do a better job of it. And this is what we're seeing in Standing Rock right now. Even though there's cameras, there's videos, there's pictures, they don't seem to care. They want to be able to be more efficient and quieter in the genocide of the original brothers and sisters that we have, the red brothers and sisters, and it continues to this day. So, Ariyana, you've seen the you know, the desperation of the Palestinians. You've seen the damage that Israel has done, and we're coming together today because I'm seeing the same thing with the people that I'm living with in this country. So
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. These are native people. Native people all across the planet throughout history have been, genocide has been done, and colonization, and their resources stolen. And you know, this issue at Standing Rock is so vitally important. Of course, we can draw many parallels between Standing Rock and Palestine. It's even the same people behind it, the same bankers who founded the fake Israeli state, which is an occupation, an illegal military occupation. They founded it, the Rothschilds bankers, and they run it. And they're also behind the big oil. You know, you can link it back to them. They also fund the presidential campaigns, the same corporations. I mean, if you follow the money trail. So the connection is there behind the scenes as to who's pulling the strings and who is behind the Dakota Access Pipeline and who is behind the illegal occupation of Palestine. These are the same people. And the importance of what's happening in Standing Rock right now, it implicates everybody. And I want to emphasize the severity of this. Basically, America always had a constitution and a Bill of Rights. I mean, we were born with this, at least with the idea that we have freedom. And we enjoyed that freedom. Since 9/11, that freedom was taken. The Patriot Act was passed, and we lost our Bill of Rights and so on. It gave the federal government the so-called legal, but still illegal, it's treason, the so-called right to basically to execute any U.S. citizen that they want to. And they've been step by step inching us towards martial law. Now, this fight at Dakota Access Pipeline, it's a fight that involves a whole lot of people, because that Missouri River provides drinking water to 17 million people. And so this is not just, they could have built that pipeline somewhere else, and they could have put it through a more wealthy neighborhood, Anglo-Saxon neighborhood. But they chose to put it through Native American tribal land. And this is their only source of drinking water. So these people are fighting for their lives. They're willing to defend it and put their lives on the line, because this, first of all, they're forced off of their land through genocide. And they're living on the land that was given to them by the federal government. It's not their original land. And all they have is what's there on that land, including their drinking water. So they're putting their lives on the line, and the brutality has increased. Last Sunday there was an event that is atrocious. And what we're seeing, Luca and I and others who are following this, is the blatant lying of the police and the whitewashing of their crimes by mainstream media, who is complicit. Complicit, first of all, for being silent and not reporting the truth, and complicit for reporting the lies of the police. And what we are seeing today in America is treason. We are seeing a takeover of our government, our federal government, by foreign government, which is Israel. Okay? Foreign power. And the American police are being trained in Israel, global police all across the planet. They're being sent to Israel for training. So we need to understand what's going on here. And Standing Rock, it is, look, if America falls, if we fall into martial law and we allow for our rights to be relinquished, then goodbye planet Earth, goodbye humanity. Because basically that would mean, New World Order, global militarization, global enslavement of humanity. So this fight that the Native Americans are so bravely fighting, I mean, they are standing up, they are risking their lives, and they're asking people to stand with them too. It's very important that people, if you have the money, if you have the time, go to Standing Rock, join them, do what you can, even pray for them. They need our attention. They need us to share this news, to get it out there on social media. Should I go ahead and talk about the events of last Sunday?
Let me just give them let me give them a background of the Bill of Rights first. I just want to give an example of this. They're slowly stripping our rights away, like they did under Hitler, very quietly, and then all of a sudden, nobody has any rights anymore. This is just about where we are now, and I always, on my radio shows, I always tell people, don't believe me. Do your research. Get the key points out and do what you can, just like we're trying to do. The Bill of Rights is being scrapped as we speak, okay? Article 1, basic liberties, is scrapped by Occupy. Article 2, the right to bear arms, they're trying to scrap it with gun control. Article 3, scrapped with asset forfeiture. Article 4, scrapped with the Patriot Act. And it goes on and on and on. And this is, it's done behind our backs. Obama is just doing what he wants to do, basically. And he's a puppet, again, for, the Rothschilds.
Obama has committed so much treason against the American people that even people don't realize. I mean, he's passed, 7 executive orders that are all treasonous. He should absolutely be restrained by his neck and face trial.
Yeah.
And the punishment, if I may add, the punishment for treason is still to this day is hanging.
Yeah.
Execution. So just saying.
Yeah, and it's really serious. It's a lot more serious than we think. The treaty with the non-natives, which is the Constitution, is being broken today too. This is how they work, okay? This is why Standing Rock is going on right now. I did a writing called Treaties Explained, and I have a picture of Tweety Bird. And I wrote, it's like a satire. And if I had the voice of Tweety Bird, I can't sniff helium right now, but if I had the voice of Tweety Bird, I would definitely use it. This is how they work. It's called Tweeties. And Tweety says, okay, I got this really, really great idea. I'm going to tell the Indians that we're going to write Tweeties. That's right. We won't tell them that they're full of BS, but this is how we're going to do it. First, we'll tell them we want peace. Then we can write the lies and song on pieces of paper, tell them all kinds of things that we know that they don't understand, and we can tell them that we're sincere and we'll get them drunk and they'll sign anything. Then we can change these Tweeties at will. We can discard them. We can lie about stuff. We can throw them out. We can do as we please. Then we can go in and take what we want because our Tweeties say so. Then all we have to do is keep writing them, more and more of them, basically making it look really professional and honest looking, and then we can get the whole country that way. Isn't that a great idea? So if you look at the land loss of the Indian in the United States, you put that here, and then you put the land loss of the Palestinians, it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. There's a very, very good reason why government shuts down and disappears people that try to find ways to win this war against corporate America. There's a very good reason why self-defense now is called treason. And now in the courts, something new that I didn't know about is called truth is no defense. Truth is no defense. And
That's a new law in the courts.
Yeah. Thanks to David Icke, I found that one out. But it's, you know, that's what this is all about. It's an engineered repetition of history. So when you get angry enough, I should say Ariyana is probably passionate. I'm very angry. I will not go to Standing Rock because I've studied 30 years on this stuff. I know what the government is about. I have a radio show of my own that I started to try and explain to people what's going on. And I can't go to Standing Rock because the grandmothers will probably tell me to get out. You know, we don't want angry people. We want people in prayer. And I don't know how they do it. After 500 years of living this, this is, we're closer to talk about Standing Rock. This is very important too.
Yeah. No, please.
Sata Shakur says, and this is very important. I'm sorry if I have to read, but there's so much stuff that we have to talk about. She says, nobody in this world, nobody in history ever got their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who are oppressing them. In the context of Standing Rock, we can change a few words around, and it sounds like this. No one in Standing Rock or in any other Indian nation or any other Indian lands, no one indigenous nation for that matter, has ever been treated as a sovereign nation ever and has had equal cultural, with equal rights and freedoms simply by appealing to the moral sense of the government doing the oppressing. You know, Tecumseh didn't go to William Henry Harrison, the president at that time, and plead on his knees and appeal to his sense of humanity. No, he pointed at him in his face and he said, your actions are causing war. And if war happens, it's because of you. See? So now they're expecting a war because that's what they do best. They're much more trained. They're much more armed. And as we saw in the video, Ariyana, they had the cars lined up going all the way out of sight on the other side of that bridge because they know, yeah, because this is what we're getting up to, because they know that they have to present themselves like this. They always have to be, you know, and these people are unarmed. They don't have any arms at all. So, you know, God knows what can happen. So this is why so many people have to be woken up.
They're staging things. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they're literally staging things to try to frame the protesters. They've been accusing them of all kinds of things, having weapons when they didn't, and photographic evidence. It was clear that they're unarmed. Yeah.
And Ariyana, if I talk too much, just wave at me and tell me to stop.
No. You're this is very important.
There's so many movies that gave us little hints about what's going on. Movies that I don't even understand why. Well, yes, I do. I can understand why they were passed because they're so outlandish that most people will just laugh at it. But you know, the little lines like used by the British, like in the movie The Last of the Mohicans, you have the established order of things by Britain. You have Make the World England. Another powerful movie for that is The Last Samurai. Deliberately speaking of the horrors of our genocide over 100 million souls since 1492. It's like a big chess game in Europe. They laugh at it. Oh, okay, I'll do this. You know, France says, oh, I'll do that. And Britain counteracts. And they're feeding each other. It's a game to them. So there's always been a war to fight. The cowardly use of force and then fear to stomp out the agenda. And remember, we've only had 17 years of peace since 1776. They will get what they want by any means possible. Eminent domain is another trick that they use, because earlier they would come to the Indian and they would say, this is your land. And then they'd come back later and say, this is not your land. We have another land we'd like to give you. You know, so the Indians end up being stuck on the worst parcels of land, impossible for agriculture. So you wonder where that cliche line comes from, you know, the man with forked tongue. So, you know, and they call it the last battle, but it was a massacre. on December 29th, 1890, from the top of a hill at Wounded Knee Creek in Sioux Indian country. You know, they have their rapid fire, brand new, never fired Gatling guns. They look exactly the same today from what we described earlier. They look exactly the same. They're dressed for war. They're going to respond to it if, you know, if that's what they have to do to get what they want because of money. $3.8 billion pipeline. These are unarmed water protectors, and we're asked to please not use the term protesters because they're protecting the water. And, you know, something else that's really important is that the government is trying to make this look like another Indian thing. It's another Indian uprising. It's another Indian problem. And it's exactly the opposite. What the Indians are doing, they're standing up for us, for all of us, because we don't have the guts to do it. They're standing up for the tens of millions of people that live downstream. And I'll get to the Missouri and the Mississippi River in a minute. They're completely selfless. They're not even thinking of themselves. They're standing up for us, as they always have. So this is why things are so important to say and to get out there.
Yes. And the pipeline, it's 75% constructed already, and they're increasing their the construction at a rapid rate. They're building through the night. That's why we saw the incident last Sunday. The water protectors there was about 400 people who gathered on the bridge, backwater bridge, and they were trying to prevent the construction of this pipeline, which is illegal. Okay, they do not have permission. Both Obama and the United Nations have released statements, and Amnesty International telling them to stop building. Okay, so they don't have permission to do this. So the water protectors are in their right to resist this attack on their land and their sovereignty. Should we get into that now, or do you want to do that later?
I would just like to slap us in the face as Americans first, because you know you have the, you know, I'll get into that later on about the difference between what the police see and live and what the natives feel and live. But for now, I just have to say this because it's very important. We would rather sit in front of our TV and drink beer and kick our feet up, or better yet, go into the streets drunk with 500,000 other people and celebrate a football game outcome. This is as disgusting as it is a waste of time. The natives in Standing Rock, North Dakota, are rising up for all of us, for all of the country's population. It's for our survival. It's about water. It's a lot more than about water.
It's not only for the American people. It's for the whole planet Earth right now. Humanity is under threat. We are facing the global militarization of this New World Order. And I mean, if people don't realize that now, okay, well, you've been sleeping, you know. And this is... If America falls into martial law, if they begin to use lethal force on the water protectors, which they're already basically doing it. They're using non-lethal weapons in a lethal way. They're directly, firing things at point blank range and causing injuries that are near fatal. And so it's very close to that. And if this is allowed to happen, it's going to be because of our silence. It's going to be because of the media complicity. So we've really got to join forces, pull together. This is a global issue, what's happening at Standing Rock. We must not allow this pipeline to be completed. We have to win this fight. This is the fight for humanity. It's not just the fight for American freedom and for water. It's a fight for humanity. It really is. We have to defeat big oil. We have to tell them, no, you can't take our freedom. And we have to display our show of power, our show of force, that our voice is louder. Our voice can stop their greed.
It looks really good too, because now I hear that there are veterans that are planning a trip up there, which really makes things interesting. There are veterans already there, but People that are used to being spit in the face, people that are used to being trained, running over in the mud, going over fences, doing all this stuff. They're used to it. So if they're unarmed and they are peaceful, that's going to make a big difference, because as we'll see later on, probably in a few minutes, that it's deliberate. They're shooting people deliberately. They're laughing. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about that yet because I don't want to give it away. But
I think honestly the reason why nobody's been killed yet is because they're doing this in a peaceful way. They're holding prayer ceremonies. If anybody knows how to do things peacefully and non-violently, it's Native people. It's the Native Americans. It's the Palestinians. They demonstrate this. You know, they are standing up at the face of, you know, they're holding prayers. Elders are being knocked unconscious, being, you know, shot in the head with rubber-coated steel bullets and, you know, knocked out, internal bleeding, and they're holding prayer sticks. They're just standing in prayer. So, just had to throw that in.
One native says it really well. A beautiful elder that I know. She says, and I'm quoting, "Our elders told us that if Zuzeka Sape, the black snake, comes across our land, our world will end."
This is a Lakota and a Hopi prophecy. And
I want to repeat that. I'm sorry.
Respected. Yeah.
I just want to repeat that. Our elders told us that if Zuzeka Sape, the black snake, comes across our land, our world will end. Zuzeka Sape has come in the form of the Dakota Access Pipeline. That's what we say when we say DAPL. You're going to hear that. That's what that is, the Dakota Access Pipeline. So I must fight, she says. We are not protesters. We are protectors. We are peacefully defending our land and our ways of life for all people. We are standing together in prayer and fighting for what is right. We are making history here. And so the reason why government spins it this way as a native problem, and why the media goes silent too, is because this is, as you say, Ariyana, it's a diversionary tactic, essentially bread and circus, if you ever heard that term before. The media is also owned, 97% of the media, or is it 96?
Yeah, 96% of the global media is owned by 6 corporations. And
it's crazy.
Corporations that are owned by Israel. The CEOs, the founders, they have dual nationality with Israel. Their complete, their loyalty is to Zionism.
So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare people. They're trying to humiliate them into backing off, which is something the veterans are completely used to, which should be interesting. And they're defacing and digging up, throwing around the bones of the ancestors that were there, buried in a line of fire of this black snake, this pipeline. You know, that's another lie.
So they have, okay, just to make this clear for the audience, they are building the pipeline on sacred ancient burial ground where there are ancestors buried there, and they've literally dug up the bones, as you said, and dumped them into a pile with other sacred artifacts that they confiscated from the camps. When they would chase people out of the tents and off of the camps, they would take their sacred prayer objects, and, you know, like feathers and things that they used to pray with, and, you know, dumped it together in piles with the bones of their ancestors. It seems to be that they're trying to incite them to become violent, to become angry by doing these things.
And then in a news conference, they lie about it. And there's a 1.5 minute video of Kelsey Warren, the CEO of the pipeline. Absolutely not. Lies. That's lies. He said it 3 times. And he says that we're constantly talking to, Morton County Sheriff's Department. I mean, you know.
They've been caught lying so many times.
It's, you know. So they lie about that. They're lying about water cannons, okay, because we see cannons being used on the water protectors.
What did they try to say about that? They tried to say that they were shooting the water cannons because the water protectors were starting fires.
And they had to put them out.
And they had to put them out. There were fires in the periphery, you know, started by the water protectors, but they were like camps, you know, to keep people warm because it's below freezing. So these were not fires as a threat.
And the video The video shows police firing a projectile that landed in the protector side of the bridge, and they had to scramble to put it out.
Yes.
And as an update of the violence at night, of course, another cowardly tactic. They're using the fall of darkness, and we know now that a concussion grenade was launched at point blank range and hit a young woman, caused serious injury to one of the water protectors, and now she might have to have her arm amputated. Last night on ABC, what do we hear? One of the propane tanks used by the protesters to throw at police went off and exploded, causing this injury. Okay, so Ariyana and we talked about this, and she has a medical report that she wants to share with us, and that's going to put things in perspective, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good example how the police and the media, who is complicit, are lying. Now, the police give a report. This works exactly the same way with the Israeli ministry, the Israeli government, where, okay, they commit a crime, a war crime, and then they give a false report. Well, they had a knife. That's what we've been hearing since last year. They attempted to stab somebody, that kind of a thing. Most of the time, it's false. And same thing in this instance. There were no propane tanks. Okay, I want to give the full picture to the audience of what happened last Sunday, because this was an intensification of violence by the police. And we have to set the stage for the events of what happened leading up to this woman's injury. There were many near fatal injuries that night. Okay, so last Sunday, water protectors, 400 water protectors stood together on Backwater Bridge because they were to prevent the DAPL workers from continuing their construction, to block the roadway for them to get into the pipeline. Okay. What the police did is they blocked the water protectors in from all angles, like in a circle. Okay, they were trapped, 400 people trapped from all sides. All right, they couldn't flee if they wanted to. And they began spraying them with water cannons. There were 3 water cannons brought in the course of the night, and they were spraying people with almost freezing water in sub-freezing temperatures. There were 300 wounded people. Most of them were treated for hypothermia. So almost everybody was sprayed with water and got wet. And
27-degree temperature.
Yeah, and that is because they were blocked in. And the reports on the ground from people were that if they wanted to flee or they wanted to disperse, then they would have had to climb over each other. Okay, they were trapped. So they forced the people to endure life-threatening water spraying, conditions. And many people were close to, the hypothermia was so severe, it was near fatal. Okay, and then what they proceeded to do as they were moving in is they started shooting people at point blank range with the supposedly less lethal weapons, like rubber-coated steel bullets that can kill. Okay, and again, this is the Palestinians endure this. They get eyes taken out and things like that. Rubber-coated steel bullets, they're still a bullet. They're still a bullet, but it's covered with rubber. Okay, it causes internal bleeding. People were shot in the head. They were deliberately targeted in the head and in the groin. Okay, this is what people were reporting. They were also targeted directly in the heart, like Sophia was. Elders, one woman, they were passed out because they were targeted in the head. People were targeted in the back of the head. They were shot in the back of the head with these at point blank range. And there were 7 people who were critically injured from trauma to the head. Okay, Sophia was shot with a concussion grenade at point blank range. Now, she was hit in her arm. The photographs were circulating on Facebook, on social media. They were released by Standing Rock Rising. And then Sophia, she actually expressed that she was afraid for her life when they took her to the hospital, and she and her family requested that those pictures be taken down. So, we're going to seek permission to actually show them here, because sometimes seeing is believing. When you can see how the damage, it was, her arm was, the half of the arm was, halfway through was blown off.
What they said was from the elbow to the wrist, it was a total loss of soft tissue, and her, the arteries were blown off, so she's going to have to have. I saw
the pictures. It was down to the bone. The bone.
She's going to have multiple surgeries, and she's always going to be living for a long time with the fear of losing her arm. Again, we heard that it is not amputated yet, so we're praying on that.
Yeah, they're not sure if they have to, but they're thinking they can save it. But she's going to have multiple surgeries. And basically, the police lied about this particular incident, 2 incidents actually, and this leads me to believe that they're deliberately a lot of information, but basically, the report that came from Morton County Sheriff's Office was that she had a propane tank. And this, as you said, was reported. This particular incident was reported by ABC News. They repeated the police report, which was a lie. And so therefore they're complicit, because they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't even check with eyewitness reports on the ground. They didn't check into the story.
They can't.
Journalists. They call themselves journalists. This is not journalism. You have to, that is complicity. So, they accused her of having a small propane tank that she intended to throw at police. She has refuted this. Her family has refuted this. She had no weapon. Eyewitnesses, no weapon. All right. Now, it's interesting that they mention a propane tank, because twice they did that. There was actually a fire on the bridge that was started by, mysteriously, an explosion that started a fire on the bridge. And the explosion injured a woman critically. That explosion was started by a propane tank. And Morton County Sheriff's Department has posted on their Facebook page yesterday a photograph of a propane tank that they said that they and under their investigation, they found that it started the fire. Interesting. So twice they've mentioned propane tanks. Did they plant that propane tank? Did they start that explosion and that fire to try to set up the water protectors, to try to whitewash their crimes and blame the water protectors and say it got violent? Because twice we hear something about propane tanks. They clearly lied about Sophia. That was a fake statement. That was a lie. And they're twice using this excuse. So did they plant it? Well, guess what? The Standing Rock Rising also found a strange device. We don't know if it was a propane tank or what, but some evidence, which they posted on their Facebook page, of a fire that was mysteriously started near one of the camps. The fire was moving towards the camp, so it's a threat. It's a threat to people's lives. And they managed to put it out, but they found evidence that it was started by some device. So, is DAPL and the police, or both, are they working together? Are they the ones starting these fires, trying to set up the water protectors? They blocked them in on all angles so that nobody could escape the water cannons that were life-threatening, and yet they reported on their Facebook page that the water protectors were rioting. Another lie. So we have to go through these minute details in order to paint the full picture, and give the full picture because the media is not doing it. The media is covering up. The media is repeating the lies of the police.
And that's exactly what I keep saying. And that's what we said earlier in the broadcast about how, everything is a lie, and we have to keep doing our investigating, and things are changing right now. So, it's always ongoing. I have a really good quote that I haven't shared with you yet, but I mean, I think I shared it with you last night. There's a really good quote here that I have to read to you. It's absolutely clear from these recent mass casualty incidents that the Morton County Sheriff's Department has zero regard for human life and holds commercial interests at a higher value than the lives of those they are sworn to protect. And did you know something else? Obama could stop all of this with one phone call. Okay? Obama could stop all of this with one phone call. Imagine trying to think of that and being in front of them and not being angry. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, what was it Obama said a few weeks ago? Oh, we're just going to let this play out for a few more weeks. And he goes, I'm not going to do anything. Let's just let this play out for a few more weeks.
Yeah. Because they don't want to step on any toes, you know?
Yeah.
One thing about the oil, too, that, see, there's so many different things that are so important that are behind all of this, that are behind all the reasons why our Indian nations are trying to stand up for us. Fracking oil, it's called Bakken, it's called dirty oil. This is what's going to be going through there. It's dirty oil. Usually oil sits on the surface and can be cleaned up. Of course, they use chemical agents that make even more damage than the oil that's already there to clean it up. But this type of oil is so dirty, it gets into everything and you can't clean it. You can't separate it. 10 drops of this oil, 10 drops will ruin a 50,000 gallon water tower. Okay? We're going to be putting up pictures also of the Saskatchewan River in Canada. You have a beautiful river taking a turn. You have another river coming in, which is the Little Saskatchewan, I believe, which is completely polluted. You have a pristine river coming down. As soon as this river goes in, the river becomes completely contaminated. So there's so much evidence. And when we come back after a little break, if you'd like, Ariyana, we can talk about the pipeline history and the oil spills and just what's at stake.
Okay.
Because we have to take a short break.
Yeah, it's been almost 1 hour, so we've got another hour to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on pause, and we will be back.
You want a coffee, and so do I.
I'm not on my life. Will you send me to die? I'm not gonna fight for what's not mine. Not on my life. Will you send me to die? A Burkina Faso survivor. Not on my life. Will you send me to die? You can fool so many people sometime. Not on my life. Will you send me to die? I said fuck the government with reply. I'm not gonna wave your flag for ya. I'm not gonna shoot and kill for ya. I'm not gonna take the blame for ya.